As my voice remained impassive, Brenda's rose in frustration.
Fine.
Did you even hear what I said?
Yes, dear.
You're going on a date with another man this Friday. And you're okay with that? Her surprise was impossible to ignore.
Not at all, I admitted. But what choice do I have?
Like you said, I don't control you. You make your own decisions. Her eyes searched my face, looking for a reaction, but I kept my tone steady. Your voice and expression tell me you're determined to go through with this, so what choice do I have left? Brenda exhaled sharply.
I'll be back.
Don't let your fragile male ego get in the way. I love you, and I'll make it right.
You'll see.
Then you already know it's wrong, I said, my voice calm and unwavering.
She blinked. What do you mean?
I didn't say that.
You didn't have to.
I let the moment settle, watching as realization flickered in her eyes. Would your parents and mine agree with you? Brenda lowered her gaze, silent.
A dead giveaway. You know they wouldn't, I pressed.
And more importantly, you know you wouldn't even bring it up to them.
Why?
Because deep down, you already know what you're doing is wrong. And you just admitted it.
When?
Her voice was defensive now. If it were just dinner with friends, you wouldn't feel the need to make it up to me. If you were going to get a haircut, you wouldn't have to apologize.
But you did.
Because you know this isn't harmless. And that makes you an evil person. Her voice wavered. But you said I could do it.
No. I never did.
I only admitted I had no power to stop you. That doesn't mean I approve. I never have, and I never will. I wish you'd stay with me, or better yet, go out with me. We could have dinner together, go dancing together. But that's not what this is about, is it? Brenda remained silent. You don't care about the food or the dancing, I continued. You care about the company. And that company isn't me. She inhaled sharply, and I knew I was right.
So, what's his name? I asked.
It doesn't matter, she muttered. It matters to me. I'm not going to argue about this, she said. Just know that I love you. I'll come back, and we'll love each other and grow old together. I let out a slow breath. I can't stop you from making stupid decisions. But you've been warned, you're on your own. Without another word, I grabbed my keys and walked out before she could say anything else. The atmosphere in the apartment was frigid for the rest of the week. By Thursday night, I packed my things and moved into the guest room. Brenda stood in the doorway, arms crossed. What are you doing? Stopping mid-step with an armful of clothes, I looked at her like she had just asked if the sky was blue. What do I seem to be doing? You're moving.
Yes.
My wife wants to date other men. You think I'm going to sleep in the same room with a cheating woman?
Dream on.
She smirked, her voice taking on a childish, sing-song quality. You're such a little boy.
I didn't respond.
I simply took my clothes, hung them in the closet, and went back for another batch.
Oh, I see, she taunted.
Now you're trying to punish the big bad witch with silence.
Pathetic.
I paused for only a moment before saying one word: consequences. Friday afternoon, I left work early and went to a high-end salon. A professional, modern haircut replaced my usual unkempt look. A straight razor shave left my face smooth, and I even got a manicure, no polish of course. Next door, at a men's clothing store, I picked out an elegant yet casual button-down shirt, slacks, and a well-fitted jacket. I considered new shoes but decided against it. New shoes and dancing didn't mix. On the way home, I stopped at a car wash for a full deep clean. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my truck was spotless, inside and out. At home, I took a long hot shower. I heard Brenda come in, heard the water running in her bathroom. I dressed with care, adjusting the collar, smoothing out invisible creases, and taking a final look in the mirror. Half an hour later, she descended the stairs. She wore a new dress, shorter than anything I'd ever seen her in, dipping low enough to leave little to the imagination. She stopped on the last step, waiting, expecting the usual adoring compliment. When I said nothing, she gave me a second glance, her eyes widening.
Holy shit, she whispered. You look gorgeous.
Where are you going?
Outside.
Confusion flickered across her face.
What do you mean?
I mimicked her condescending tone. Did you really think your weak, ignorant husband would just sit at home, waiting for his promiscuous wife to return? Shaking my head slowly, I walked toward the garage. And here I thought you were smart. How can one person be so wrong?
I reached for the door handle. Brenda stiffened.
Well, I don't want to be late. Charmaine doesn't like waiting. Sliding into my freshly cleaned truck, I barely suppressed a smile when I heard her sharp, startled shout behind me.
Gotcha.
That night, Charmaine and I spent a fantastic evening at a sophisticated wine bar, enjoying light dinners, rich conversation, and the kind of company I should have had all along. On weekends, a live pianist filled the intimate dance floor with soft melodies, setting the perfect ambience for an evening of wine, conversation, and effortless chemistry. Charmaine and I had already discovered that talking with each other was effortless, natural, even. Even better, she appreciated my humor. Yes, it's a cliché, but it's true. Few things capture a man's heart more than a woman who laughs at his jokes. Dancing with her was like making love with our shoes on. We moved in sync, a perfect rhythm, our bodies drawn together like magnets. More than once, our lips brushed, first an accidental touch, then a lingering caress along cheeks, ears, lips. There was magic between us, unspoken but undeniable. And yet, we both knew I was still married. We understood what that meant and what it didn't. So instead of indulging in the obvious, we savored the moment, letting our eyes play flirtatious games over sips of rich, velvety wine. Brenda, as I've said, is beautiful and passionate. But passion has a dark twin, jealousy. I had no doubt that the thought of me holding Charmaine close, touching her, whispering in her ear, would drive her insane. Even as she prepared for what she surely expected to be a thrilling evening with her chosen Mr. Hound, I knew she wouldn't be able to enjoy herself once she realized what she had unleashed. When I dropped Charmaine off at her apartment, she gave me a mischievous smile and, with a teasing twinkle in her eye, let a single drop of her perfume fall onto my collar. Then, as if sealing a promise, she pressed her freshly painted lips to my cheek, my neck, and finally, my collar, leaving a smudged crimson mark. "Go get her, Tiger," she murmured with a wink. I laughed, stepping back into my truck and driving home, the scent of her lingering around me like a whispered secret. It was barely 10 p.m. when I walked into the house, the atmosphere thick with tension before I even stepped fully inside. "Where the hell have you been?" Brenda's voice cut through the air, shrill and accusing. "None of your business," I said smoothly, shrugging off my jacket. "You never told me where you went with your anonymous Mr. Hound, after all. I'd ask if you used protection, but frankly, I don't care if you're rotting from the inside out. It's not my problem anymore. I'll never touch your lecherous, cheating body again." Her face twisted in outrage. "What do you mean, thank you?" I gave her a slow, deliberate smile. "Don't you see? If you hadn't gotten the brilliant idea to open our marriage, I never would have had the chance to get to know Charmaine better. What a woman. Hot, hot, hot. So, thank you, darling." Brenda let out an ear-piercing scream, the kind that made me half expect the neighbors to call the police. "You know I hate that bitch." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Why do you think she was the first person I called? Her breath hitched, her eyes wide with shock. What? I sighed, shaking my head. Once again, I seem to have overestimated your intelligence. Think, Brenda. You got dressed up in clothes you've never worn for me, paraded yourself around for some anonymous man, and you're surprised when I do the same? You renegotiated the terms of our marriage without my consent, and I simply followed your lead. The only difference? I was honest about who I was with. You, on the other hand, are too ashamed of your accomplice to even say his name out loud. She visibly faltered, her shoulders slumping as her breath came in ragged bursts. What's wrong, Brenda? I asked, my tone mocking. Did Kevin South not sweep you off your feet tonight like you'd hoped? Her gasp was audible, her hands flying to her mouth. How do you know? I smirked. Oh, Brenda, I said, my voice adopting the exaggerated tone of a game show announcer. The inadequacy of your mind is truly on full display. Think. You work in an office full of women. Kevin is the biggest womanizer around. Do you honestly believe your little infatuation went unnoticed? Everyone talks. That's what you all do. Her face paled, eyes darting wildly as if searching for an escape. For over a month, I continued, your so-called friends have been whispering to me about how you not only fell for Kevin's act but started chasing after him yourself. Google eyes, one of them called it. Maybe he dumped her for you, maybe not. But rumor has it he was planning to have you tonight, had a room at the Marriott and everything. Apparently, that's his move. First night, fancy hotel. After that? Motel 6 or the woman's house. You didn't know that, did you? Her silence was all the answer I needed. I watched as the truth crashed over her like a tidal wave. Her expression twisted, not just with humiliation but with genuine horror at her own gullibility. She burst into tears, sobs racking her frame. Oh Rick, I'm so sorry, she wept. You're right. I'm such a fool. How can you even stand being married to a stupid slut like me? I let out a long, slow breath, the weight of the moment settling in. Ah, Brenda, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. The good news is I don't have to. She blinked, her sobs hitching to a halt. "You'll be served in the morning," I told her. "After breakfast. We have 3 more months left on this lease. You can renew it or find something else. Doesn't matter to me."
She wiped her eyes.
"Where will you go?" "Charmaine offered me a place to stay while I figure things out," I said casually. "She has a second bedroom she uses as an office."
"Though?"
I trailed off with a smirk. She did mention we could discuss better terms later. And let's just say, after I told her I'd be filing tomorrow, she laid out some very appealing terms.
Brenda flinched.
"Everything else we own, we'll split down the middle. Now you're free to sleep with whoever you want, and you won't have to deal with the whining of a wimpy husband anymore." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I hope Kevin was worth it. In the weeks that followed, I met some of the other husbands Kevin had left in ruins.
They called him Mr. Hound.
One night, after another conquest, he returned to his car to find it vandalized. Windows shattered, paint scratched, baby poop smeared across the seats, wheels missing. And just when he thought it couldn't get worse, 3 masked figures emerged from the shadows.
Silent. Merciless.
They took his wallet, his cheap knockoff Rolex, and then they made sure he understood, in the most physical way possible, that he would never ruin another marriage again. The police were baffled, unable to understand why thieves would go after his family jewels. With no witnesses and security cameras mysteriously painted over, there were no leads. Kevin soon moved out of state. No one knows where.
No one cares. As for Brenda,
she found an apartment but left town shortly after realizing I was happily attached to Charmaine.
I never saw her again.
Charmaine and I stayed together for a while, but we both knew short-term passion didn't always lead to long-term compatibility. Eventually, I moved out and found a townhouse closer to work. With time, I grew stronger, wiser, more certain of what I truly wanted. And in that journey, I found common ground with someone else. A co-worker at my gym. One thing led to another, as these moments often do.
This time, I found happiness. With a man.
A man with real intelligence between his ears and loyalty in his heart.